Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucknicks? What the fucksters? What's happening? How are you? What's going on? How did you make it? Did you get what you wanted? Did you break it? Did you return it? Were you disappointed with the person that loves you? Were you excited by them? I want to congratulate everybody who got Marc Maron merchandise. Wear it well. Enjoy it. Enjoy that T-shirt, that hat, that mug, that poster. Dig it. Today I'm talking to Patty Jenkins. She's the director of Wonder Woman 1984. She was the first woman to ever direct a superhero franchise movie. When she directed the first Wonder Woman, she also wrote and directed the film Monster, as well as a lot of television you've probably seen. I watched the movie. I watched both of them. I hadn't seen either of them. I did not see Wonder Woman when it came out. You know why? Because I don't watch comic book movies. I enjoyed the Wonder Woman movies, but I don't know what to compare them to. I don't know what a good movie is when it comes to superhero movies or what a bad one is. I was just not a comic book person. And as time goes on and I talk to comic book people, it seems that, you know, I'll admit this, I might have missed out. I might have missed out by not being taught to enjoy sports, comic books, fantasy of any kind, food that was fun. Yeah, I think I was poorly parented, which we've established, but I was given the gift of a sense of humor most days and the love of music by my folks. But nothing anyone could do to get me to be excited about a ball moving across a field of any kind, from racket to racket, person to person, foot to foot. No go, don't care. Hand to hand, through hoops, off bats, into stands, over nets, across the field. No go. Not for me. Same with flying people of all sorts. Half animal people, people flying that can do weird things with their bodies, with their eyes, with their hands, with their feet, with their strength, with their brain, with lasers, with the wings, the fly, the cape, whatever. Not for me. Though the elastic guy was interesting. Stretch it out. Stretch it out. And I kind of like Doctor Strange. But, as some of you know, later in life, in my 30s, when I was living in an attic that was painted blue, 88-ish, probably 88-ish, 63, 73, 83, still in my 20s. So I didn't get into comics till I was 25, 26. And the comics I got into through Alan Moore's Swamp Thing were Hellblazer, and then onward into Sandman, and all the underground comics. I did enjoy underground comics, and I've discussed this before. Didn't like superheroes, but I liked the comics where the characters fuck. First time I saw fucking was in a comic book. Sorry, kids. I was like, oh, that's what happens. That's how it works. Art Crumb and Spain. Spain, the comic. Spain Rodriguez. And, so those I enjoyed, and I continued enjoying. 8-Ball, Hate, all the Charles Burns stuff. Yeah. Bag, Crumb, life-changing. Comics did change my life. R. Crumb changed my life. Totally. But no one from the Marvel Universe had any impact on me whatsoever. But R. Crumb and his fucking world rewired my brain. Totally. And Hellblazer, that's how out of my mind I was. Hellblazer, when I was reading, I've got the first Hellblazers. When I first started getting those comics, I identified with the character. That's how psychotic I was. That was the remnants of cocaine-induced psychosis. I was already, well into a year of sobriety, but the power of the mind, or how I saw it working, was still pretty expansive. So I was reading those John Constantine comics going, yeah, dude, I've been there. I know what it's like to traverse these worlds and be the middleman for great mystical things. I get it, man. I had to do that in Los Angeles. I was on a lot of coke, but I was definitely managing. I was the portal between the two worlds, and sometimes it does get a little tough to handle the forces of evil And it's even harder to identify them. If I had not pulled it together at that time, if I didn't let it go and eventually stay sober and let that psychosis dissipate, I might be a QAnon person right now. I so thoroughly understand how the conspiracy brain works because I've had it. I had to shut it down. Thomas McGuane, the mind is not a boomerang. If you throw it too far, it will not come back. I don't know when or where McGuane said that, but for some reason, he's the guy that I believe said it, and I've been quoting it for my entire life. My entire life. So look, folks, it is almost the new year, so it's time to turn the page. But for a lot of people, that's not easy. Feelings of anxiety, loss, depression, anger, self-esteem, they can all feel worse around the new year. If you're having trouble this time of year, or any time really, BetterHelp Online Counseling offers licensed professional therapists who are trained to listen and to help. You simply fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs and then get matched with a counselor in under 48 hours. Then you can easily schedule secure video or phone sessions, plus exchange unlimited messages to communicate with your therapist at your convenience. Everything you share is confidential. You can request a new therapist at any time at no additional charge. Join the 1 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced BetterHelp counselor. I get a lot out of talking to you people, but I also talk to a professional therapist, and there's really no substitute for that. BetterHelp is an affordable option, and WTF listeners get 10% off your first month with the discount code WTF. Get started today at betterhelp.com/WTF. Talk to a therapist online and get help. Get help! Get help! I've been meditating pretty regularly in the morning for about 10 minutes, trying to do it, trying to work that muscle. Work the muscle that gets the thoughts away from you just being with your breath. There is a muscle to it, and I'm kind of digging it. Because once you start wading away or pushing aside the noise, the thoughts, and just getting into that zone where you're on the cycle of your breath, and utilizing that skill really kind of introduces you in a quiet way to who you are. Given that we're being introduced to who we are in a emotional and psychological way because of this isolation and claustrophobia of plague terror, the meditation kind of like gets out from under that, and it just lets you sit with yourself. And I think during the day, working that muscle or trying to work that muscle helps you out, grounds you, makes you know who you are in almost a primitive way that you don't even need to understand. You just know that maybe for 30 seconds to 5 minutes, you sat comfortably in your vessel with a clear head. Helps. Definitely helps. So I talked to Patty Jenkins a few weeks ago. Wonder Woman 1984, her movie, is now streaming on HBO Max and is playing in theaters. We recorded this before it was announced that she'll be directing the next Star Wars movie, so don't expect any chat about that. But this is me talking, and it's a great talk to Patty Jenkins, the film director.
Hi.
Hey.
I'm very intrigued by your workspace.
I'm intrigued by yours. You're very backlit, and as a director, it's not. You are a shadow of yourself.
I'll tell you why. It's because my son is now working in my office.
Right.
So I can't be there. So we just moved, and I'm working in my husband's office, and it's like a mess.
Oh,
so I can move, but then I'm always like, Jesus, what? I have no idea what's going on here. It's like just half built.
I think it's okay. I think I can see you.
Well, I was just going to say, and I don't want to start off on a downer note, but yeah. I just loved Lynn and Lynn Shelton's work. So I just wanted to say I'm so sorry. I was so heartbroken for you and for all of us.
Yeah, she was a special person. Did great movies, and did you ever know her?
Movies. We wrote to each other all the time. Yeah,
oh, really?
And so I was in touch with her. Yeah, her manager Rosalie was my manager at one point too.
Oh, okay.
And so she and I started communicating a long time ago, and like we're always big fans of each other. And so it was just so I was so bummed I didn't get to meet her more.
Yeah, well, she liked to write, so she always wrote good emails.
She did. Great emails.
Yeah.
Great emails.
Well, I mean, I imagine that, like, I imagine that your initial success with Monster must have been very inspiring to her, I would imagine. Is that where it started, the communication?
Yeah, it did. It did. I think, she really liked it. And then I really loved some of her films. And so I think we started talking about it in that way. And I think we would ask each other advice about different crew people and things like that. But yeah, she was super supportive from early on.
It's so wild where you've come from that.
Yeah.
From that sympathetic, somehow you were able to muster enough empathy to make a full character out of that broken, horrific person.
Yeah.
And kind of now you're dealing with the most empowered, mythic, feminine creation that we know.
I know. So weird, but to me, it doesn't feel like it's very odd because it does not feel as different as it does to other people. In both cases, it's like trying to humanize an unbelievable journey.
Yes. And
make you feel like you're in the shoes. Like with Eileen, what was so interesting to me was when I watched her, I could tell that this was not a person who loved killing or a psychopath.
Right.
This was somebody who life experience had gotten her to a place where the best idea was to murder 7 men,
Yeah, right.
And so it was like, how do you get there? And clearly people get there all the time. Clearly, men go to war and go and do it in droves, become killers,
Well, there's sort of a system in place for that, right?
There is, but in this case, there's a system too, which is she'd been like, the thing that I thought was so amazing was people were so perplexed by, like, I don't get it. She's a man-hating lesbian. But if you looked at her life, she'd been in the hospital like 16 times for having been beaten and raped almost to death. And then she carried a gun for 20 years before she ever shot somebody. So you're like, eventually somebody's going to rape you and you're going to defend yourself probably,
Yeah.
And so that in that same way, her story was so heartbreaking because it was almost like the strength of character that could have made her an amazing person with a different life experience turned her into a survivor that defended herself. And then it goes too far, And
also that you were able to dig a love story out of there and
yeah,
which really humanized that person. I don't know, like I didn't read a lot of the press on that, but were you able to meet her?
I was once I started to write the film, I wrote to her and in prison. And so we wrote to each other for about 6 or 7 months. We were never friends. She never trusted me or anyone. And she was always kind of very, very wary. But then Charlize and I were about to go down and meet her. And they scheduled her execution in like a month. And so we didn't get to, but then the night before she was executed, to my shock, because she had been like demanding millions of dollars and all of these things and like very, very untrusting of us, she left all of the letters that she and her girlfriend wrote over an 11-year period for us to read.
Oh, really?
The night before she was executed. Yeah. And it was sort of like her optimism. Like at the last moment, she was just hoping I could do something good with it and just gave it to us for nothing. And so I got to read thousands of personal letters between her and the real woman who was her girlfriend, which was just, and even the information you read in there is so informative to Charlize's performance as well.
Yeah.
And heartbreaking, just like heartbreaking.
I can't imagine it. And it's all infused with the sort of horror of her being executed and the people she killed. Like when you have artifacts of people that have transgressed to that point, they're kind of electric unto themselves, right?
Totally. And that carried through for the rest of the film. There was a really electric air to filming it where you could sort of feel the truth. We were shooting in the same exact places where it all went down. So like murders happened here and people were caught here. And so there was this kind of electricity of dancing with truth.
Yeah. That
is something I'll never forget.
Because you had it on the page and you had it on in the geography of the thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
It definitely comes through. The way you shot it was great, but also, Charlize is like, I don't even know where that came from. She's a great actress, but there was a possession going on there.
There was a possession. It's funny because that's exactly actually what it felt like. I felt like